Your information station, WTIM.
Welcome to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Your stream brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. I'm here on the phone with State Treasurer Michael Frerichs. Great to have you here.
Avery, good morning. Pleasure to be with you again.
It is a gorgeous morning, and it's great to have you on as well. Thanks for taking time out of your day to join the WTIM Morning Show. So I'm just going to go through your website a little bit, and I have some questions about some of the programs that the State Treasurer's Office offers, and something really big here in Christian County. There's a very big nonprofit and charitable giving community in the area. So I want to know how the State Treasurer's Office is assisting nonprofit organizations across Illinois.
We have a program called Charitable Trust. We offer grants for smaller nonprofits. That means if a nonprofit is operating on less than $1 million a year in a budget, and they work either on food, housing, or workforce development. If they're trying to help people find a job or feed or house them, we offer grants up to $25,000. We've been giving them out twice a year. So we encourage any nonprofits in the area to reach out to our office and see if they could apply. We want to make sure these grants are distributed throughout the state of Illinois, and we really like partnering with these nonprofits. You know, many of them are faith-based. We know that when we give them $25,000, we are leveraging so much more because they also raise money and they rely on a lot of volunteers in many cases. And so we can get a lot more done with our money by partnering with these smaller nonprofits than we could get by doing it all ourselves.
Well, what are some examples? I know you mentioned the faith-based programs, but what are some of the examples of nonprofit organizations, or maybe you have a story to tell about a time that this program has really helped a nonprofit across somewhere in Illinois?
Well, one of my favorites is we say either the providing food security, housing, or workforce development. But as in Decatur, a few years ago, we gave a $25,000 grant for a nonprofit that helps people to raise and grow food and then use that food to serve people in the community. So they'll find people who need some sort of skills, teach them skills in terms of agriculture, but also food preparation, food service, at the same time feeding the hungry in that community. And then a lot of their graduates come out and get good paying jobs in the food service industry. Really a great example of meeting two of those three needs.
Absolutely. Yeah. The food insecurity, especially even now, that's one of the main topics of discussion every month when we have the food bank come on, the Central Illinois Food Bank. And no, they're probably a little bit larger on the larger end of that nonprofit side. So maybe that's a good place to visit. What are some of the nonprofits that are eligible? I know the $1 million threshold is something that you mentioned. What's an example of a nonprofit that wouldn't be eligible, et cetera?
Yeah, you have some larger established food banks with much larger budgets. So like some food banks out there be larger, but they frequently work with smaller nonprofits to distribute food. They either will give it out directly or they'll give it to a smaller nonprofit that's targeted on feeding one community, like senior citizens in an area, like young students with food insecurity. And those we can help with. What I've found is the nonprofit community has great ties. When we reach out to one, even if they don't qualify themselves, they probably work with some organization that does. And they're very happy to help. You know, in the business community, there's a lot of competition. What I find amongst nonprofits, there's a lot of cooperation. And that's what we want to do in the State Treasurer's Office. I like cooperating with these nonprofits out there. They have a base of volunteers, people who are motivated by a mission. They raise money themselves, and by working together, we get a lot more done.
What else would you like to tell everybody about the ways the State Treasurer's Office assists nonprofits across Illinois?
Well, so under the Governor's Office, Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, and other agencies out there do a lot of help. But this is one area where we've sort of taken a lead. This was legislation passed well before I became treasurer. The responsibilities were given to the treasurer's office, but when I came into office, we did an audit of our office. looked at everything we were doing, making sure we were doing it well or how we could do it better. And that audit uncovered that even though this fund, the charitable trust fund, had been collecting revenues for years, they hadn't given out a dime. This was sitting there collecting money. This was a time that there were smaller nonprofits really hurting. The state didn't have a budget in place for a couple of years. Many of them were forced to close their doors. And we asked the question, well, what can we do to help out? And so we discovered, and set up this secure choice, or the charitable trust program. We've given out millions of dollars now to nonprofits and made a big impact on a lot of people's lives. So it's one of, I've told you before, Avery, I love this job. There are many things I love, but this is one of those things I love, being able to partner with nonprofits throughout the state of Illinois to really help people in need.
If you
and
go,
I'll let people know that this money comes from fees that larger nonprofits pay into state funds when they do their annual filing. It's not paid for by property tax or personal tax dollars. This was an initiative of larger nonprofits out there to show you how much they cooperate and how friendly they are. They said, hey, we want to help out these smaller nonprofits struggling. Basically, why don't you impose a tax on us? They pay with their annual filing fees. It goes into this fund. Really just a great story all around.
Shifting gears a little bit, when you go to illinoistreasurer.gov, there's a whole bunch of different things the state treasurer's office has to offer and information. One of the things you can click on illinoistreasurer.gov is the Colton Settlement. What is that?
Yeah, so for years we have had, we've run unclaimed property. So money from maybe a last paycheck that someone never collected, or a refund from a deposit with the power or a water company. Maybe there was a rebate owed from a company, or proceeds from a life insurance policy. If that company didn't get them to the rightful owner, they would turn over to us, and then we would look and try and track down the rightful owner. In some cases, it could take years, decades, or more. We'll hold on to that money forever. But some people had complained, okay, well, you were holding on to my money for years, and I made no interest on it. And so we reached an agreement with a person, my last name of Colton, that agreed to pay interest for the first time ever since taking office. So we hope to return this money quickly, but if people are unaware of it, if they can't claim that money, for a 10-year period, we will help them earn interest on their money. So another good change is help us return a lot more money to people in the state.
Sounds like a long process to go from. Obviously, the state treasurer's office does a great job of returning money back to people, but it sounds like that Colton settlement. It sounds like it was quite the process. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, so it's a long process negotiating how we calculated interest, because if we hold these properties, we get them in at different times, we hold them longer for a long period, and interest rates rise and fall. But we eventually reached that agreement and been able to pay out a lot more, and able to, because of other changes we've made, working in a bipartisan manner with the General Assembly, we've been able to pay out a lot more properties. So since taking office, we have paid out more than 1 million claims. And to put this into perspective, all of my predecessors as treasurer who ran this program had paid out a total of 500,000 claims. So in a shorter period of time, we have paid out twice as many, but that doesn't happen by accident. That is because we prioritize this. We worked with the General Assembly. We got changes to state law to make it easier for people to get their own money. I just heard too many stories, Avery, of people who said, oh, treasurer, you've got my money. And I would say, we'd love to give it to you. And they'd say, oh, it's too much of a hassle. We ought to make sure that we're giving the money to the rightful owners. They ought to prove that it belongs to them, but we shouldn't put so many roadblocks and hoops in their way that they give up. Because this money, when we put it into Christian County citizens' pockets, and they can spend it at local businesses or restaurants, getting that money circulating throughout the economy does a lot more good for our state than it does sitting in a bank vault in Springfield.
Let me reintroduce you here. That's State Treasurer Michael Frericks here on the WTIM Morning Show. More from him after this short break. Your stream brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark.
WTIM. Your information station. WTIM. Your information station. WTIM.
Oh, sorry about the double take there. You're listening to the WTIM Morning Show. I'm Avery Cooper. Glad to have you along. Your stream brought to you by People's Bank and Trust, where they put people first, and Landmark of Taylorville, where you always do better with Landmark. I'm here on the phone with State Treasurer Michael Frericks, right here on the WTIM Morning Show. We were talking a little bit about, just some personal events going on in our lives, and I got a little carried away. So I wanted to let you go ahead and take the announcement. There's a big deadline coming up tomorrow for farmers that they should be aware of, right?
It is. This is for young children between the ages of 8 and 18. It's our Cream of the Crop photo contest. This is the 10th year we've been doing it. Our 10-year anniversary, we're making this a little more special. We encourage young people between 8 and 18 to go out into the countryside, to go out onto the farm with your camera, look around and take some pictures. And then look and pick your 2 best pictures and submit them to our photo contest. We choose winners in 3 different age categories, and we've had good winners out of Christian County in the past. Want to make sure that young Christian County residents are taking photos, but the deadline is very rapidly approaching. It is tomorrow. So if someone in your listening audience hears this and they're interested, they have a child or a grandchild interested, have them go out and snap some pictures tonight, maybe tomorrow morning as the sun is rising. Pick your best ones and apply to the Cream of the Crop photo contest in the Illinois Treasurer's office.
First day of summer, great day to go out and take some pictures and submit it to the Illinois State Treasurer's Cream of the Crop contest. What can you describe some of the past winners? What were the pictures of?
You know, there's a wide variety. I think a lot of people, a lot of kids, especially if you didn't grow up on a farm, have these images in their mind of what agriculture is. Or maybe people think of it as a farmer and his wife standing in front of their house with a pitchfork. You know, agriculture means so many different things. In central Illinois, we know it means corn and soybean production, but it's also livestock, and there are specialty crops, and there's hay, and there's wheat and straw, and all kinds of things that farmers raise for food and fuel and fodder that a lot of people don't think about. And that's part of the idea behind this contest, Avery, is we want to get people to step out. And when they step out, they may see something they had never thought of before. And hopefully some young person gets inspired. You know, we have, in honor of our 10-year anniversary, went back and talked to some of the past winners. Several of them have gone on to either major in arts or in agriculture in college. And some of them said that they were inspired by going out in the field to do these careers. And so since we see so many farmers in the field with a few gray hairs, we know we need to help train that next generation of agriculture leaders to take over at some time in the future. If Illinois is going to continue to be the #1 agriculture state in the country, we need to make sure we have ag leaders ready to step up.
Couldn't have agreed more myself. Now, obviously, that's what this contest is about, is inspiring the next generation of farmers, but there's got to be a prize involved too, right?
We do. We pick the winners. We display their photos at the state fair where we acknowledge them on Agriculture Day. We put out an annual calendar that we fill with the contest winners. And we also, hopefully for the 10-year anniversary, have a little bit of surprise for the winners in terms of a scholarship. We've not announced that yet, but you got a little sneak peek here. So if you have a young person in your life between ages of 8 and 18 who has some interest in photography or agriculture, there's still a day and a half left to go out and snap some pictures and submit. You know, the pictures have ranged from planting season to harvest season. We've had some phenomenal pictures of livestock in the dead of winter. You know, farmers don't stop after the crop comes out of the field. They are producing and feeding and fueling our country year round.
Well, we have a couple more minutes to talk about, well, just about anything else that you wanted to draw attention to. I know there was something else that you mentioned, but it's slipping my mind at this moment. Could you fill me in a little bit better?
So unclaimed property, we love to remind people that we're sitting on money. I've talked about how much we return, but I am constantly told, Treasurer, I don't need to check your website. I keep track of my money. I don't lose my money. And I just want to remind people that that may be true. Maybe you've never lost any money, but it's possible that there was money out there meant for you that you were never aware of and it never came to you. Just a couple of weeks ago, I got to call the son of a Chicago police officer. The son is now living just north of Rockford near the Wisconsin border, and let him know that his father had a life insurance policy that for whatever reason, when his father passed away, never got to him. And it was a nice way of reminding him how much his father took care of him when he's alive and is still taking care of his son today. It was a great story. He was overwhelmed, and I think not so much about the money, but just the memory of his father and how his father was always there to take care of him.
Well, and that's what the state treasurer's office does so well. The unclaimed property features returning their money back to them. And really appreciate you doing that. So
if any of your listeners think that we don't have any money, hopefully they'll take that story to heart. Go to illinoistreasurer.gov, click on Unclaimed Property, and search for themselves, search for family members. If they own a small business, we have money for small businesses. If they own a nonprofit, if they're involved in a nonprofit, we have it for nonprofits and churches as well.
That is State Treasurer Michael Frericks. Thank you so much, Treasurer Frericks.
Avery, thank you very much. You have a great day.
Yeah, take care.